family has been with this bank since my father-in-law started it.
Are you a relation?
This is my son.
No, you can't see the uncanny resemblance, so you're implying she's under duress.
Now what I want is $260,000 in cash.
Is everything okay?
When someone needs that amount of money in cash, nothing's okay.
Birth, education, intelligence.
Just do it.
21.
Talent.
Again.
Looks.
Player wins.
I've seen you be $500,000 up.
I've been up $2.5 million. You got me feeling lucky. I'm putting everything on black.
Red's been coming up all night.
You want me to pay you now?
Maybe I enjoy watching the show.
19 red.
So after the success of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it would seem that you could do a bunch of different things, including the sequel. What makes you want to tell a story that's a remake, that's a character-driven story, and that's a story where some of the action is cards just being dealt?
Wow. Well, I never saw it as a remake, first and foremost, so I never set out to remake something. To emulate the original would have been a disservice to the original and to myself as a filmmaker, and I think all involved we were trying to do something different. So the way into me with this film was to tell the story of a man who's less of an addict, unlike the original, but more of a guy who's kind of looking to get out of his life, to escape from his life, and escape from the kind of the gilded cage within which he was sort of trapped. And I thought that was a really appealing story, whether that be a personal thing or whether that be more of kind of the story itself, I'm not sure. But I was lucky enough with my second movie to have a great success with Apes, and but it was really my second movie, so I wanted to get better as a filmmaker. So doing a film like this was more challenging.
And can you talk about the collaborative process in creating this character between you, William Moynihan, the writer, and Mark Wahlberg? How do you create this, and what's that kind of balance between the three of you to make this character likable and winning?
Well, it's all about being on the same page, really. I mean, sometimes you can find yourself when you come onto a project that's already preconceived and being developed and exists as a script. As a director, if you don't have the same mindset as those around you, it can be a very difficult experience and not necessarily to the benefit of the movie. Whereas with this, very, very early on, from the first meeting with Mark and meeting Bill and really understanding what Bill's outlook on life was and this movie in particular, I knew we were on the same page. I knew we wanted to tell the same story. So the collaboration was a seamless one in many ways. I mean, Mark and I had a huge amount of fun, I would say, working on the character and working on the script as a whole.
Were there challenges in making him someone who's someone that we would root for? I find it's a very interesting balance of humor and drama in the film. Yeah. He's self-destructive, but there's something about him that you wanna see him do well. Was that something hard to find, or is that inherent in Mark and that's it?
It helps having Mark Wahlberg in the protagonist in this particular instance, because the character is not the most likable of people, and Mark as an actor, I think, is inherently likable. He's very much an everyman and very empathetic in that way. But yeah, I mean, I think my philosophy and Mark's philosophy was always, as long as he's interesting, we're okay, and that's what we sort of set out to achieve, was to remain curious about this character. Why is he making these decisions? Why is he so seemingly insane or stupid but actually the realization that it's neither of that. There's a very clear goal and a very clear code that he set out for himself, and the big question then ultimately becomes, will he survive, or will he not make it out of the dragon room at the end?
And lastly, to touch on something you mentioned at the beginning, not approaching this as a remake, it does seem on the surface this could be a timeless story about a gambler, but I don't think that's the case here. I do think it's grounded in 21st century. Can you speak to, the attitudes towards materialism or anti-materialism as well?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the movie for me was a really interesting study on a guy who's actually looking to buck the trend of Western philosophy in the 21st century, which is all about material success and our career achievements and relationships being kind of in a way according to how society dictates. And here's a guy who's actually thinking, none of this makes me happy. It doesn't matter if I'm very rich, doesn't matter if I'm very well educated. It doesn't matter if I have a secure job. All of these things that many people obviously quite understandably are really trying to achieve. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily make you happy. And I think he's figured that out, and he wants to actually find real spiritual happiness, which is an interesting whole study for a mainstream movie. So it's about an overdog who wants to become an underdog, which is a challenge to tell that story and still appeal to people when everyone, including myself, we're all designed and programmed to kind of think differently.
What'll they do to you if you don't pay?
Break every bone in my body.
How am I going to get my money, Jim?
I look like a magician.
You must have thought you was magic occasionally.
If I have to pull you into an inappropriate relationship to get you out of your job, I'm ready to go.
So am I. What if I told you that I'm not a gambler? I want a real love, a real thing to do every day, and I'd just rather die if I don't get it. Did I just say that out loud?
If I give you this money and you don't pay me back, there are no rules. You understand the gravity of your situation.
I know what I have to do. All or nothing, all the money down.